Welcome to the afternoon video, everybody. I did have a whole bunch of different comments in requesting specific charts. However, because we had so many requests, I've narrowed it down. If you requested 2 or 3, I gave you one chart that I'm going to go over just because we have so many. And in this video alone, we're going to cover 9 of those particular stocks. Over the weekend, I will have a little bit more time, so just continue those comments coming, and I'll cover more charts over the weekend. So let's dive right into the charts. The first one we're going to cover is MDA. So MDA, I have delayed charts on right now. So a couple things that I'm looking at. First off, here's a potential shoulder, head, and shoulder pattern that's currently forming on MDA. Now, we haven't broken the neckline, which is this trend line right here. And if it does break, then we're going to see more downside on MDA. So I don't have it in the charts yet, but look at this. Low pivot point, secondary hit. Here's where basically the next support level on the way down is going to be this upswing trend line. So as long as we can maintain price action above this upswing trend line, then all of a sudden we can see a further upside move. And so really, now that we've recaptured this trend line, this is going to solidify itself as support. And as you can see, there's a pivot top right here as well. So right around $45 is where I'd look to get into MDA. And that would also be my particular stop out level as well. If it did start closing below that and taking out this upswing trend line, then this upsloping trend line as support would then flip to resistance. And so that's one of the reasons that I would exit the trade on MDA. Now let's take one more trend line. Take the all-time high, downsloping trend line. So in order for us to break out, not only do we have this pivot top here, these pivot lows in this area, and as you can see, we got already a rejection off of that, but you have the third hit of this downsloping trend line, basically completing the wedge pattern on MDA. So really what we're going to do is we're going to wait to see what price action does. If we can break out to the upside, then MDA has the potential to come up to this gap fill at around $54 and up to $55. Or if it breaks to the downside, again, that would be my stop out level, and then likely to get to this low pivot area around $40. ACHR. I love the chart of ACHR right now. So here's the resistance level, which is where ACHR actually needs to get back above in order for us to have a continuation move. And as you can see, we've done that twice. So we've had this pivot top here, this green bar candle here, closed back below it, came back above, closed above it. If we can take out this pivot low here to the upside and then close above this high pivot point, I could see Archer heading way higher. If we fail though, if we fail one more time and end up closing below $6.59, which is the support level right now, then all of a sudden my next level of support is going to be right here at $5.48. And really, this is the support zone from $5.48, basically all the way back down to $4.73. You have this low pivot point, and this is the area is where I would look to buy ACHR for a potential swing trade. The other thing we got to look at is downsloping trend lines for additional support. So we're going to take this pivot top here, connect it to the secondary pivot, draw a trend line. As you can see, we haven't come back in and retested this downsloping trend line. We really did, what we did was gapped above it. And so here is one of the reasons that if $5.48 is why I would look to enter a swing trade long on ACHR. BMRN is another stock that you guys asked me about. BioMarin Pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals, as you can see, if they have positive drug news, huge movement to the upside. Now, if they have a failed trial, then you have these huge swings to the downside. Right now, what we're noticing though is pivot low here, pivot highs, higher low, higher high. And so as you can see, we were continuing in an uptrend. Now all of a sudden we had this huge surge to the upside. And let's identify where the resistance happened. So here's these low pivot points where we did get above. We made a little bit of a continuation move above it, but now we're closing back below it. So for me, this is still a huge area of resistance. On the way down, the area that I would look to enter BMRN would be sitting right here at $61.40. Now, this is not financial advice. This is just the area that I would look to re-enter or enter a trade. Not only do you have a ton of support, used to be resistance, got above, got below, was resistance again, ton of resistance on the way up. Now all of a sudden we flipped that, made a big move to the upside, come back in, fill this gap, $61.40. That is the area that I would look to enter a long play on BMRN. The other thing I'm actually just noticing in the charts, this upswing trend line. So I'm going to draw a couple different trend lines for you as well. So here is another upswing trend line. This is what's really keeping the buoyancy of this chart. So if we can get back into this area, this would be my entry price, again, 61.40 for a long, and it would also be my stop out level. Because it would recapture, if we did get below this on a daily closing basis, then all of a sudden this would flip back into resistance, and then you could see further downside. Plus, look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. This would be the 5th hit of this upswing trend line. And if you've seen my videos before, the more often and the more repetitively an upswing trend line is hit, the weaker that support level gets, which would make it favor a potential move to the downside. However, because we're still above that, it hasn't negated that, and so we're technically still in an uptrend. MAGS. So this is the round hill Magnificent 7 ETF. You got a pivot low here, secondary hit. We did finally close below this, and actually, sometimes you can actually take these low pivots right here, and so this would be also a trend line on the Mag 7 ETF. But we're going to go ahead and stick with this one because we have more hits. Pivot low here, secondary hit, broke through it, 3rd hit, 4th hit. Similar to what's going on with BMRN. The more often and the more repetitively it hits an upsloping trend line, the weaker this upsloping trend line gets. Now we're kind of creating this nice wedge pattern though. Pivot top, secondary hit, 3rd hit. This is kind of like a bull flag, but it's not definitive quite yet. And the reason I don't think it's quite definitive yet is because we need to see what happens inside of this wedge pattern. And from current price action all the way over, oh, let me try the shift button. We still have about another 50 to 75 days, depending on when it hits, to decide on whether it's going to break out or it's going to break down. If I was not in this trade, this is not an area that I would look to enter it. Even though this got this huge up move, sideways consolidation underneath resistance, I would have to see what it does with this downsloping trend line. Or if it came all the way back down to this downsloping trend line or this upsloping trend line, this is an area that I would look to enter because it would give me a clear stop out level. If it did start closing below around $64.07, depending on when it hits, this is where I would also exit the trade. There were a couple different chart requests on uranium. So let's actually go to the uranium chart itself. So we're going to, in the past, this is what I've used. You can use URNM. This is a Sprout Uranium Miners ETF. URA is a global uranium ETF. I've liked to use this one in the past. And this is an ETF that consists of SCHG, DNN, NXE, and URNM. So it gives me a better or clearer picture of what these 4 uranium stocks are doing. Here's a nice upswing trend line. As you can see, it finally broke below it, never made this big continuation move, recaptured it, and then ended up flushing that level. So for me, I actually would say that my shortable level is a retrace of around $7,200, $7,230 in this area, or you could look at CCJ, DNN, NXE, or URNM once this upswing trend line gets to a resistance level. On the way down, we're creating this little bit of a W pattern. So what I'd like to see is it come back down, retest these low pivots, and it's the same thing with URA. It's going to be pretty similar as far as a pattern goes. So if we can head all the way back down to $5,466.29, this would be a great support level, and it also gives you a clear stop out if it does start closing below that. The next support level is this low pivot right here, a bunch of other support levels, and then you've got some pivot lows here. So really you're looking at a $5,000 pierce if it starts going below basically $5,500. All right, now let's show you that it kind of gives you the same information on URA. So on URA 4221 is that low pivot area, but for me, I would wait for an entry price at $39.30. Again, it's not quite the same, but it's pretty similar. And you turn on the relative strength index. For me, it's actually looking like it's got a little bit more upside before the RSI heads all the way up to the 30 to what most people consider an overbought condition. IREN, I've gone over this several times, so I'm going to go over this just briefly. So here's a down sloping trend line. Pivot top here, secondary hit, third hit, fourth hit. Inverse head and shoulders pattern right here. My measured move on this thing and an upside target is around $5,500. You do have some resistance on the way up though. You got a pivot top, ton of price consolidation on the way up. And as you can see, we've already stopped in this support, or excuse me, resistance zone. And that goes from the 15th of April 2026, basically all the way over to this level around $55, and that goes to the 30th of June 2026. Ton of buyers who were stuck in this trade, and that's why we're getting this nice rejection on IREN today, and we have what happened on yesterday's price action. The entry price on a long would be a retrace of this downsloping trend line, or basically the neckline. So if we can get price action to come back in, fill this gap right here, and hit this downsloping trend line at the same time, or pretty close together, my order would be sitting at $39.75. In this area, you're going to have a ton of support. Now that we've flipped it and had a nice surge to the upside, a drawback down into this area should start basically, people should start accumulating in that zone. SCHG. This is a Charles Schwab US large cap growth ETF. Now, this pays like a 0.37% dividend. So it's not considered, for me at least, a dividend paying stock that I would hold long term based on the dividend. So here's this upswing trend line. Nice up move, sideways consolidation at the upper end of the flag. And so this is telling me that we could start to break out to the upside. Once we recapture or get above this upswing trend line, I would like to see what happens. If we can make a huge continuation move, maybe get up to about 37 or 37.50, then this resistance trend line flips to support, and then I would likely play this on a retrace. But this thing is still overextended to the upside. The ideal situation would have been getting it back here at $30 or sub 28 bucks, sitting right here at this low pivot point. But now that it's already escalated so rapidly, this is not something I would play until we came back down into these pivot tops right here. Similar price action though, as you can see, nice close below a support level, got back above, tried to make that continuation move into the support zone, recaptured it, came back in, and almost retested it. And so that's why we're seeing the surge to the upside. FLO. Whew. FLO, Flower Foods. Beautiful downsloping trend line. Pivot top here, secondary hit, third hit, fourth hit, fifth hit. Now, I have $7.64 on my radar. So I'm going to switch to the weekly time frame, zoom out, and as you can see, really, this is your support zone, or at least it was. Let me go ahead and try that again. Control Z. Take this pivot top right here, Alt J. This was my support zone from $9 all the way back down to $7.64. As you can see, though, this downsloping trend line has capped the price action on the way up over and over and over again. So now that we're at the lower end of the support range, what I would like to see is Flower Foods getting back above $7.64, recapturing this downsloping trend line and actually making a continuation move all the way up to about $9. If we can do that, and then it retraces all the way back down to $7.56, I would be a buyer on Flower Foods in this area. If I was aggressive, as soon as it recaptured it, I would enter it, but I'm not that kind of a trader. I want to make sure that the trend is over, and then that provides me an opportunity to enter it after the move has completed and the downtrend has been reversed, and then people are looking for a continuation move to the upside. So I have to wait for a break of this downsloping trend line. The next level of support, and this is a support zone, and that goes from these high pivot points at $6.35 all the way down to this high pivot point right here. Ton of support at $5.47. So really, we're at the lower end of this major support zone. Our next level of support, $6.35 all the way back down to $5.47. Last but not least, SpaceX. Now, when price action was right up here at about $125, I was saying that I love this support zone around $108.37, all the way back down to this low pivot in the charts at $104.83. On the way up, here is going to be a really major resistance area. As you can see, this was a pivot low. Support on SpaceX was right in this area. Once we got below it, there were people who were stuck big time in this trade going negative. And so that's why we had this rejection at $149.34. If we can create more sideways consolidation under $149.35, this is the area that you could look to play for a long. Again, not financial advice. This is just something that you could possibly do. If you want to, please consult a financial advisor. Anyway, you clear 149.34, then all of a sudden, these people who were stuck in here, they may want to exit it. However, it's starting to turn a little bit more bullish, and they could hang on for a wild ride to the upside. Now, above that, above this high pivot point, this red bar candle right here at about $172, there are not a ton of people who are stuck in this area. And once it clears this, then we could fill this gap right here at about $184. Next gap above that is 191. And then you have the all-time high of about $225 on SpaceX. And something like SpaceX can really move rapidly. So, if you're holding on for long term, or if you're looking for, a speculative trade, SpaceX is one of those trades for you. Anyway, thank you so much. Please make sure you're dropping those comments, because not only does it help me with content going forward, but it also helps with algorithm, and hopefully you guys are getting something out of this as well. So being that said, if you could do me a favor, just go ahead and hit that like button. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe so you can get more videos like this. And then if you're subscribed and you've already liked it, go ahead and ring that bell so you get notified when these videos drop. And we'll see you next time in the charts. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.